And good morning, everyone. Welcome to this day. It is March 16th, and I just want to tell you that on our show today we have CEO Jeff Parker. If you watch Friday, he gave us an update, and he's here today and going to give us an update, and this will more than likely be a regular thing for a while. And with that, we've got some other tape segments. We're going to show you. One of them is RadNet and some other things as well, but we got to talk about the important things first. So we'll get an update from CEO Jeff Parker and talk about that in just a few minutes. There are no meetings scheduled today, and we'll talk to Jeff about that for this week because most of them are going to be canceled anyway. We'll get more of an update about that. So let's get to the weather. And we're already having to stay inside, but unfortunately, we got probably a week's worth of rain coming in. Today and tomorrow, this big storm that is due to come in probably hit us this afternoon. As it stands, anywhere in the mid to late afternoon. We're expecting heavy rain by this evening. Tomorrow, 1 to 2 inches of rain is expected throughout Southern California. What happens in this spot, it just depends how that storm comes in, what angle it comes in. But do expect a lot of rain today and tomorrow. Scattered showers on Wednesday. That'll probably be the remnants of this. So it's a possibility Wednesday, later in the day, we could start to see some sunshine. Then going forward, Thursday and Friday, and I hate to tell you, at least right now, Saturday and Sunday, we are looking at mostly cloudy with kind of like we saw yesterday, right? We saw a little bit of scattered rain, some sun, a little bit of everything. It's probably what we're seeing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday coming up. So a possibility, again, of some sort of rain for the next 5 to 7 days as it stands right now. Throughout Orange County, everywhere you go, it's going to be stormy as we get to the late afternoon and evening throughout Palm Springs as well, of course, up there in Big Bear and all those areas. And you can see the temperatures are going to stay consistent really throughout the week here of hovering right around 58 to 60 degrees. So not a real cold storm, but it has the potential of bringing in a lot of rain. So keep that in mind. All right, we're going to be back in just a moment.
Jacobson McCall have created Agent 55, a real estate firm focused on 55-plus communities.
Agent 55 and the marketing technology allows us to deliver even more to buyers and sellers.
Everyone respects Kelly's over 30 years experience as a top sales producer and trusted expert within 55-plus communities.
Agent 55 has great knowledge of Laguna Woods.
Agent 55 offers something powerful and unique. We guarantee it. Ask us how.
Envision, the eye doctor's #1 choice.
I have worked with the doctors at Envision for over 20 years. Their experience, state-of-the-art technology, and positive outcomes have earned them my trust in taking care of our mutual patients.
With clear vision, all things are possible. To schedule your appointment today, contact us at 866-599-2740.
Welcome back, and as I said, we have the VMS CEO, Jeff Parker, here today. And Jeff, welcome back. We saw you on Friday. And obviously this could be a regular thing each day, just depending how things go.
Right, we want to keep everybody in the village informed as much as we can with regards to what's going on with coronavirus.
Right. Yes, now on Friday we talked about some parameters that were being set up. And each day that's going to change probably. So let's talk about, I know on Friday you mentioned that the pools were still open and now they're going to be closed.
Yeah, we're recommending that based on the governor's instructions over the weekend in his press conference and in communication with Orange County Health, we've decided that in precaution territory, we're going to close the pool operations, and that again will be for the 30-day period in which we'll reevaluate at that point in time.
Okay, now as far as the community center here, another change because on Friday resident services was still open for walk-ins. That is changing now. And of course, you know, there's a balance of giving the service, but also protecting the residents and the staff as well.
For those that don't know, yesterday in the governor's press conference, he basically said that anybody over the age of 65 should home isolate.
Right.
And given those provisions out there to our community and everybody in California, we believe it was necessary to step up our precautions relative to our operations here. So what we're recommending and what we're putting in place is that relative to resident services for alterations, recreations, or anybody walking in, instead of being able to do that, call now or email, and we can set up an appointment if we need to see you in person. So it would be appointment based.
Okay, and the email is info@lagunawoodsvillage.com, the
Correct.
same email?
Correct.
Okay. Now, as you mentioned, alterations, recreation, obviously on Friday, all the clubhouses, fitness centers and such, the PC rooms were all shut down.
All shut down, staying the course there, won't change that operation, and like I indicated on Friday, we'll reevaluate during the 30-day period.
Okay, and also when it comes to Village Television, to our studio up here, you've stipulated now no walk-ins, right?
Correct. Yeah. All our facilities basically are now going to be by appointment only for our residents, and again, that's following the governor's directive to have anybody over 65 isolate in their homes.
Okay, now let's come to, as I mentioned, the board meetings. We know that already, as you told me just a little while ago, the third meeting tomorrow is not going to be taking place as far as I know, so it's not going to be televised or. So tell me how the boards are going to be operating at this point.
All right, so individually, the decision is being worked out with each board. I met and called the presidents last night, and our recommendation was that for the 2-week period minimally, that we cancel all our meetings and board meetings specifically, but we also have committee meetings. Right now, what we're going to do is work individually with those mutuals. In the case of Third, they're going to cancel their meeting tomorrow. With the case of VMS, we're looking at whether we're going to go virtual or cancel. And so we'll be providing updated information to our residents as soon as that is available.
Okay, and of course, Restaurant 19, another directive was having a bar closed.
And new information there. The bar closing, and also that all restaurants reduce down their capacity to 50% of what their original capacity was, and make sure that there is spacing for individuals that are going to attend. We're also working with Tony on whether or not we can have a specific reservation system set up for Clubhouse.
Okay, and again, something like that can be shifting as well.
All the time.
It could be that by the end of today that, you know, only takeout is allowed, or so we'll find out about that. I'm not saying for Restaurant 19 or whatever, but I heard inklings of that this morning, that restaurants in general. So
as the governor indicated yesterday, because of the seriousness of this and their real efforts to make sure that the coronavirus is not spreading, I think they're going to look very seriously at a number of ideas to curtail that activity.
Right, yeah. So it's all in flux, really, hour by hour. Now, again, you want to remind people all the meeting rooms are closed. The recreation rooms are closed in the garden villas as well. So that's an important one, because on Friday we didn't talk about that because a lot of the 3-story buildings have their own rec rooms.
Exactly. And one of the things we heard was that some people were looking at maybe going to the garden villas recreation centers and using those as quasi meetings. But again, we want to let everybody know that the same operation rules and regs want to operate with regards to the garden villas. No activities in those recreation centers.
Okay. Now, to get information, obviously the Village website, and here by watching us, and at least at this point, you know, we're going to be on. Again, things can change. We don't know that. But you could be coming on. We'll probably see you each day for however long it may take, or close to that, or someone else.
And I really appreciate that opportunity.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that, again, we're communicating with our members here in the community. We want to make sure that we're on top of it, and by coming in and joining you on a daily basis, maybe for the next week or two, we'll make sure that happens. If we don't need to come on because there's no information, then that's the case, but we want to be able to make it available to everybody.
All right, and also we're going to be having a movie marathon. We did yesterday. So we'll gather some movies up and let people know about that.
And I can tell you that was a great success. We got a lot of emails that came in. A lot of people noticed that, appreciated, and we will do everything we can to make people more comfortable in their environment.
All right, very good. Jeff, always good to see you. And
Great to be
as
here.
of right now, don't shake anyone's hands as much as I would like to. We're not going to be doing that. And more than likely, I will see you tomorrow.
Great.
All
Thanks,
right,
Ken.
You take care. You take care as well. We'll be back.
To help stop the coronavirus, the CDC recommends to avoid contact with people who are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue, then throw the tissue in the trash. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces. Stay home when you are sick, except to get medical care. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. For more information, contact the CDC. A message from Village Management Services.
Thank you for joining us. Today I have Dr. Mark Stein, who is a radiologist for RadNet, and today we're going to be talking about calcium scoring. Well, thank you for being with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
We know you're an expert in this field, and so we wanted you to tell us a little bit about, first of all, what is calcium scoring?
Calcium scoring is a test where you use a CAT scanner to determine how much calcium deposits there are in the arteries to the heart.
Okay.
Which can give you an idea of how much vascular disease or coronary artery disease a person has.
Okay, okay. And at what point would you actually use the calcium scoring?
It is not a screening test for heart disease. It's a test that we use to determine and help us determine the risk of a patient having a cardiovascular event, particularly in patients who have a high cholesterol.
Okay.
And it's used as a decision maker to help decide whether you should put a patient onto cholesterol lowering drugs or statins.
Okay. So I want to talk to you about something. My mother actually had calcium in her arteries and they had to go in and take it out. So at what point would she have gotten tested?
Well, you don't really take out the calcium in the arteries. The calcium is an indication that there is vascular disease.
Okay.
It's not an indication that you're going to have an imminent heart attack.
Okay.
And a lot of people have calcium. As you get older, you tend to get calcium in your coronary arteries. In fact, it's more common to have some than not to have any when you reach the age of 70 or older.
Oh, okay.
So it's an indicator that there is vascular disease. It doesn't necessarily mean on its own that you're about to have a heart attack.
So what would they do with the calcium that's in the arteries?
Nothing.
Oh, they don't do anything. Okay.
There's no problem, in fact, with the calcium in the arteries, and the calcium that we see is not usually the calcium that causes a problem. The calcium that causes a problem is the disease that causes the problem is really a plaque that is not calcified.
I see.
And we don't see that on the routine calcium screening. We can see that with other tests, but not with routine calcium screening.
Okay.
All it is that there is an indication that there is vascular disease.
Okay, gotcha. And how is this test performed? And is it dangerous?
It's not dangerous, but there are some things you need to be aware of.
Okay.
It's not dangerous in the immediate having the test, but there is some radiation involved with it.
Okay.
The amount of radiation is about what we call 1 millisievert. It's not very high. It's not something that would stop you from doing the test, but it's not a test that you would do every week, for example.
Right.
The other disadvantage of it is sometimes you see things that you don't really want to see. So you may see a small lung nodule that really isn't a problem, but may cause a workup later on. However, having said that, I've picked up lung cancers when I've done these tests.
Okay.
So there are pros and cons to it, but you need to be aware that occasionally you may have an unnecessary workup just because we found a small nodule that wasn't doing anything.
Okay. And at what point do you actually do the calcium scoring test?
we do the scoring test in patients who have a high cholesterol or have risk factors for coronary artery disease, where the physician is unsure whether to treat the patient with cholesterol-lowering drugs or not.
Okay.
If you have a very high risk of coronary artery disease, you're a diabetic or a very strong family history or a cholesterol greater than 190 milligrams percent, that's an indication to treat without doing a calcium score. If you have a lower cholesterol and the physician is unsure, you may have a reason not to treat with lower cholesterol-lowering agents, then the test is useful. If you have a negative test, then they may elect not to treat you and take the risk of the treatment.
Okay.
If your calcium score is higher, then they may elect to treat you, even though there may be some risks from the treatment itself.
So tell me what the risk factors are associated with this.
The risk factors for coronary artery disease are many. The main ones are diabetes, high blood cholesterol, a family history of heart disease, and there are some other causes, some lesser causes, obesity, things like HIV/AIDS, patients with autoimmune diseases. All of these patients are predisposed to getting coronary artery disease. The use of calcium scoring in these patients is for those patients in whom the major risk factors are not present, but they have a high cholesterol, but not high enough that they fall into the very high risk group. Your physician will stratify you as to whether you have a high risk of coronary artery disease, an intermediate risk of coronary artery disease, a borderline risk, or a low risk. The use of calcium scoring is particularly in those patients who have a borderline or intermediate risk of heart disease, who have some other risk factors such as HIV/AIDS, autoimmune diseases, obesity, and some other of the risk factors that your physician will know about.
Are those things that build up over time? For instance, some people smoke all their life and they may or may not have this issue, and some people maybe smoke 5-10 years and they do have the issue. Is there a time factor?
No, there's no time factor. I think a lot of it is genetic. Some people are predisposed to it, but smoking is probably one of the highest risk factors that is preventable. And in fact, what we found is the amount of peripheral vascular disease and heart disease is lower in areas who have stopped smoking than in areas, for example, in the Midwest where there is a lot of smoking.
Okay, all right. And then the example that I had given you earlier regarding my mother, what did they do exactly to her arteries?
What they probably did is they did a diagnostic procedure to see whether there were any narrowings associated with the calcium. If there were narrowings in the coronary arteries, they will dilate those.
Okay.
They do not remove the calcium that's there. You would have to remove the entire vessel.
Now, I understand that this calcium scoring test has now moved kind of higher in the rankings of whether you do it or not. Tell me about how that comes about.
The latest American College of Cardiology and American Heart Association guidelines that were published in about November of last year basically have raised calcium scoring to a level higher than some of the other tests we used to do to determine whether to treat patients. So we used to use C-reactive protein, some other tests, and calcium scoring was lower down. We have now realized that calcium scoring is an easy test to do. It's very reproducible, and it is useful to do now in those patients who are at risk for coronary artery disease, but you're not sure whether to treat.
Okay, and then once you have the test results back, and it does show traces of calcium buildup, is at that point is when you prescribe the medication, or what else would you do?
So basically what your physician will do is he or she will decide what your risk of a cardiovascular event is.
Okay.
Depending on that risk, he will order or she will order the calcium scoring. When they get that result back, they will put it together with all your other risk factors and decide whether you need to be treated for your high cholesterol or not.
Okay. And is there a way to prevent and possibly reverse calcium buildup in the arteries?
There is some work that says that the statin drugs that we use, the cholesterol-lowering drugs, does reverse the calcium buildup. More important is it can lower the risk of a cardiovascular event. As I've said before, the calcium itself is not the calcium we're worried about for causing a cardiac event.
Right.
What we're worried about is the plaque that we don't see.
Okay.
And so that is where it's really useful. You can reduce the calcium score with statins. And in occasional people, you can actually increase the score with calcium, with cholesterol-lowering agents. So long-term, lowering the calcium is not as important as using this to decide when to treat a patient for high cholesterol.
And then what exactly causes the calcium buildup? I mean, for me, you know, you might think, well, maybe I'm drinking something that has calcium. Like, what if I drink too much milk? Is something like that even possible?
No, no.
Okay.
Really, what we're looking at is atheroma, vascular disease that occurs normally with age in most people.
All right. Good. Okay, good. And then how often should someone have this test?
That is very controversial. And in fact, I'm not sure that once it's done, whether you would have it again unless the patient had a score of 0. If the patient had a score of 0 and was not treated, then you may want to do the calcium score a year or 2 years down the line to see whether calcium is now developing, and a patient who you decided not to treat would be treated in the future.
Okay. And then here in Laguna Woods, where can they go to get this kind of testing?
We have a site right in Laguna Hills at Saddleback Valley Radiology.
Okay.
And we do a number of them there. We probably do 3 or 4 a day.
Okay.
And RadNet has a number of other sites that does calcium scoring. And you can go onto the RadNet website and see where they are.
Okay, but again, this would be something that would be ordered by their doctor, having them know that that's where they need to go.
Yes, we would. This is not a screening test. This is a test that is of value to decide when to treat a patient. Because if you have somebody who's got no symptoms, is very low risk, and suddenly you find calcium in their coronaries, you're not going to do anything with that result.
Right.
So before you order a test, and this goes for all radiology tests, I recommend you know what you're going to do with the result before you do the test rather than after you do the test.
Okay, all right, perfect. Well, thank you very much. Is there anything else that I might have missed?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time. And thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm John Bowser-Bauman. You probably know me best as Bowser from Sha Na Na, but I'm also president of Social Security Works PAC. And you know, when I'm in Laguna Woods, I always watch Village television. Grease for peace.
Welcome back. Well, we have Dr. Benjamin Montoya here, who's with Kaiser Permanente of Orange County. And it's been on all of our minds, the coronavirus. So I thought it was important to bring him on so we can learn about it and learn how to not get it. Well, thank you so much. There's just a whirlwind of information out there. And so I wanted to make sure that we had the right person here to help explain what this is all about. So thank you. Welcome.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
And let's just start with what it is. Novel or novel coronavirus. How is it pronounced?
Novel coronavirus.
Okay, and what does it mean?
Well, the coronavirus is a type of viruses that we encounter every season. And they're usually responsible for the cold and respiratory illnesses up to about 1/3 of the cases. Now, those are common viruses that happen even here in the United States and in California. However, there has been some novel coronavirus, which basically means they're new viruses. They kind of popped up. And they usually have been associated with, coming from animal sources. Right. As you remember, there was the MERS back early in the century. And then after that, there was the SARS. Well, now we have the novel coronavirus 19, which now is called COVID-19, which is stands for coronavirus disease 19 because it started in the year 19. Okay. It was first found actually at the late December of last year in a cluster of pneumonia and pulmonary infections in China, and that's how it became known at this time.
Right, right. Now, so people are a little worried because they hear about how many people are affected in China, and then there have been people that have come here to the U.S. who have also been exposed to the disease. So is it likely that it will become some sort of a pandemic here?
Well, it is hard to say because we don't know how this virus is behaving, is going to behave in the future. Obviously, because it's new, there's a new information every time. Now, here in the United States, we only have up to today about only 15 cases.
15?
15, 1-5.
Oh.
Of those, only one in Orange County.
Oh.
But again, right now, I just wanted to let you know that the risk of acquiring this illness or this infection here in the United States is low.
Well, yes, I would imagine. I mean, we don't live in the same kind of quarters as China. I mean, we do have much more spread out. So, I mean, I think that could be a real situation if you have people in very small spaces like they do in China, which we don't really seem to have. How is it spread?
Well, right now, like I said before, this is new, so we're getting new data every day. The main source of spreading this infection is by droplet being expelled by people when they cough or they sneeze. And it is believed that it's basically the causes that when the droplets travel a short distance and when people can basically breathe them in and that way acquire the infection in that manner.
So just like the flu or the cold, I mean, the same kind of way, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
It's it's a respiratory virus.
Right, okay. So when you compare the symptoms of the coronavirus to the flu, how similar are they?
They can be very similar, but the difference between this virus and the common cold and the common flu are those that the main symptoms are basically fevers, shortness of breath, and cough.
Okay.
For this particular novel coronavirus.
Okay.
Now, there has been some possible sore throat, runny nose, diarrhea illnesses as well, but that's it's a low percentage of people that have presented with this infection.
Okay.
Now, when you compare for instance, the regular cold, basically people will have like nasal congestion. Fever is not a main prominent feature of a nasal cold, of a cold, but you can have nasal congestion, sore throat, and it's usually gradual. It lasts, it's more of annoyance than anything else. Now, compared to the flu can have similar symptoms as well, which we're talking about runny nose, cough, even diarrhea. But with the flu, it happens sudden, and basically people become very sick, meaning they have muscle aches, myalgia. Basically, you spend the time, couple of days in bed, trying to recuperate from that.
Right.
In essence, it's very difficult to make a distinction between any of those respiratory viruses just in symptoms alone because they share all the common features. For the perspective of this particular COVID-19 virus, the main feature that you need to think about is if you have been exposed to the virus or not.
Exactly.
So basically, risk of exposure is the main thing that you can think about whether you have it or not.
Okay, and as you mentioned, it's very unlikely or low that we have been exposed to that particular
Exactly.
virus.
Currently our public health department and working in conjunction with the CDC, they basically having a very good network of systems and workflows in order to be able to contain this virus, identify and basically contain whoever comes out to be positive.
And I imagine that you are informed quite regularly about this information, seeing your position.
Well, yes, I look at those websites maybe 2 or 3 times per day, just to be informed also. And also we have a very close partnership with the public health department here in Orange County as well.
Perfect. All right, as we go forward, let's talk about some things that we can do to prevent ourselves from getting any kind of virus.
Okay. Well, first of all, in regards to this virus, there's no vaccination yet, and there's no approved medication for this virus.
Right.
Okay. Now, overall, in order to prevent any viral infection, including the COVID-19, you have to make sure that you basically have prevent the spread of the virus. Okay.
Right.
If you're sick or if other people are sick. Now, first of all, thinking about washing your hands. Okay, washing your hands but often, 20 seconds with soap and water. Okay, I usually like to sing the happy birthday song, so in my mind.
For 20 seconds.
Yeah, don't sing it out loud because people are gonna think that you're not well. Okay, so that's one of the things that you can do. Another one is when you cough and sneeze, make sure you cover yourself. Now, a lot of people tend to do this, and then go around and maybe serve you some food or what have you. Make sure that you use a tissue and then dispose of the tissue right away.
Okay.
Obviously, if you don't have a tissue available,
Right.
you should cover where your sleeve.
Right, so is it like in your arm there?
Exactly,
Yeah,
in your arm.
okay.
And then, of course, wash your hands after for that.
Okay.
Common things like don't visit people when they're sick if you can help it. I mean, obviously, if you're a care provider, make sure that you use a mask and wash your hands often and things like that.
Right.
If you are sick, stay home.
Exactly.
Stay home. Don't spread the germs to everybody else. People don't want to have that kind of sharing.
Right.
And also, but if you were to have to go outside, your home because of medical care, make sure you wear a mask when you go visit your doctors.
Okay.
Exactly.
But that's only if you're sick.
Exactly. And that's to prevent for people catching your condition.
Okay. Because, I mean, I saw a lot of people in the airport and on the airplane who had masks on. Is that really going to do anything if you're not sick?
That at this point, like I said, there's no spread of this virus within our community, within the United States. There's no need to wear masks at this point.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, good. And any final thoughts?
Yes, final thought is that, we have forgotten that right now is the influenza season, okay? And the season itself is still going. It's still going to be here for more weeks. And just to compare what's going on right now with the influenza, which happens every year, and I have to look at my notes here. So there has been 26 million cases in the United States of influenza and about 14,000 deaths of that. Now, that has become kind of common nature for us because it happens every year. But don't forget about that, and don't forget that basically you need to vaccinate in order to prevent, because that's the most important way to prevent the flu illness.
Perfect. Well, I had my flu shot right here on the show with some of the Kaiser Permanente people from Orange County, so I got the ball rolling, hopefully. All right, well, thank you so much, because we really want to make sure that people understand that it's a very low risk, and they don't need to panic and get up in arms all of this. So thank you so much.
That is correct. Thank you.
Remember, if you have any concerns about your health, you can always visit your doctor and they can explain more to you. But if you would like more information about this, you can always go to kp.org/Orange County. We'll be right back.
#1 choice for wood flooring and more is LA Carpet.
Now during their 2-day sale, visit their showroom now and get 65% off wood flooring, laminate, and waterproof flooring.
Plus, get 5-year, 0% financing.
Carpet, #1 for you.
Hey folks, we're up here in Ladera Ranch at an abandoned bank building. I'm here with Orange County Fire Authority PIO Larry Kurtz, doing some training up here. Nice to be here with you folks. What exactly are you doing here, and how were you able to get this building?
Well, thanks for joining us this morning. This building was donated to us by the managers of the building. It's going to be demolished and replaced by another building. So they asked if we wanted to do some fire training on it. And the Orange County Fire Authority, we look forward to any opportunity to do this training. So what we're doing here is we're actually setting small fires within the building, and we're practicing our attack methods and using a thing called air track control. Now, this is a different way of fighting fires in that we actually close the door behind us when we enter a building. And people would think, that's crazy. Why would you want to do that? What it does, it cuts the oxygen off from the main body of the fire and actually slows down the fire, cuts down the heat that we're going to have to deal with, and enables us to better put out the fire. We also have props inside on firefighter entrapment and a wall breaching. So we're having practice on rescuing firefighters inside the building in case one of us gets in trouble.
And as you were telling me earlier, that the opportunity to be able to do this, your training facilities are great, but to be in a real building that has hallways and all kinds of different things really helps with the training process, doesn't it?
Oh, certainly. There are elements of a building that you can't mimic in training simulations. Things like the way the building is laid out, the way the fire manages, the way the smoke production goes all the way to the floor, and actually having to knock through walls of actual buildings. It increases the potential for us to learn a lot more. It increases the realism for us, so when the real thing comes along, we're going to be ready to go.
And what's interesting is that you're both creating the fire and you're creating the smoke with the smoke machine, sort of opposite of really what you're trained to do, but necessary in creating a real life event.
Yes, it's an unusual thing for people to hear that the fire authority is starting a fire. We start them, we put them out, and then this afternoon we're going to do it again.
So again, exactly what you're doing here is a kind of a new technique, or has it been used before in other places?
This was experimented on by the New York Fire Department back east. They experimented on some of their abandoned buildings on a thing called door track management. It was called transitional attack. Now, I know that thing's a little bit unusual, but what normally happens is we enter a building, we go into to fight the fire. Up on top of the roof, a truck company goes up on top of the roof, cuts a hole in the roof, all the smoke and all the heat comes up and out and enables the firefighters inside to find the fire and put the fire out. But what happens when we actually pull back that roof is we're actually feeding more oxygen to the fire, and for a brief moment we're accelerating the burn. So we're actually allowing it to grow bigger in order to put it out. What this is we're actually shutting the door behind firefighters after we enter the building, and it snuffs out the fire. The heat is still there, the smoke is still there, but the fire doesn't have the oxygen to get larger. And so that's what we're experimenting with here today.
Now, does that mean that if this technique proves successful, even in going to inside a house fire, that they won't ventilate the roof, or will they still do that at some point?
We will still have truck companies up on the roof to ventilate, but the first thing we want to do is we want to try and limit the damage to a fire. You know, sure, we want to put the fire out, but we want to do it with causing as least damage to the house as possible. And if we can get inside and put out the fire without having to cut a hole in the roof, which, as those of you know, are a little bit of an expensive thing to replace, if we can do that with limiting the damage, that's our primary goal here.
So how long is the training process going on? Is it just today, or is this something ongoing that you can see happening over the next months?
We'll be here today. Of course, you're here for the first exercise, so we'll be doing it all day today and most of tomorrow as well.
All right, and again, the opportunity to get a real building like this to do this, I know it's happened in the past, you're able to do that, but it's few and far between, right?
Yes, it's a very rare opportunity. We have to do a lot of permitting. We have to make sure everything is safe. The Air Quality Management District has to okay it. Plus, we have to make sure this area is secure and make sure that all the firefighters and the people in the area are safe. And once all those dots are aligned and we take care of all those things, then we can go forward with the training. So yes, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, we're going to jump on that opportunity and go for it.
Yeah, and I want to mention on the way up here, along the local streets here, there are definitely signs up. A lot of different companies are involved. They're coming in from all over the area?
Yes, it's not just the companies from the area here around Lake Forest. We have companies from as far as way San Clemente and Yorba Linda coming in to participate in this training.
Yeah, great opportunity again. And you guys you have your great training facility up there in Tustin, your headquarters. There's one in Irvine. But to be able to do this, to be on scene, and you are mimicking an actual event, right? You have someone that is an incident commander. You even have your own photographer here and your battalion chiefs, right?
That's absolutely right. The first unit comes on scene, and the captain, usually the guy wearing the red hat, comes on scene. He becomes the incident commander, and we're following this thing through as if it were an actual incident. Other units are coming in a couple minutes at a time, and he assigns those units, some to fire attack, some to search and rescue. Some are going to be up on top of the roof doing ventilation. Every company coming on scene is assigned a particular job in a particular area of the building to put this fire out as quickly as possible.
Are they, in a training like this, are you looking at not only using this new technique, but also evaluating the crews and how they perform?
Absolutely. We have veteran firefighters here on scene and can always use more practice. We're never done training in the fire service. You can be in this business for 30 years. You're never done learning. And we have new firefighters within our firefighter family who just came out of the academy, eager to show their skills to the veteran firefighters and eager to show how much they've learned in the academy. And so we're going to put them through their paces.
Well, Larry, we really appreciate you and all the Orange County Fire Authority for allowing us to come up here. It's a great opportunity to show the community exactly the kind of training, the fact that you're always trying techniques to fight fires safer and more efficiently.
Absolutely. And again, the Orange County Fire Authority is very grateful to the city of Lake Forest for allowing us to do this training exercise and the owners of the building.
All right. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
And welcome back. With me today is Jeffrey Rodriguez. He is with the Social Security Administration, and he actually produces a show for us every week We show it on Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then we show it again over the weekend. Just some wonderful information. It's great to have him on our program this morning. Jeffrey, always good to see you.
Thank you for having me on. It's great to be with you.
Yeah. So first, you are the public affairs specialist, and you actually cover a lot of territory.
Right. 5 years ago, I started in the position, and I was covering only Orange County. As of recent, last year, about midway through in the spring, my counterpart retired, and so I took on San Diego. So now I got San Diego and Orange County. So yeah, pretty vast area.
Yeah, that's a wide area. It is. And what you really do is very similar to what you do on the half-hour program you do for us. You really give some wonderful information about Social Security, the ins and outs of it. People often, you know, they approach a certain age, or even after they get Social Security, quite often there's a change, you know, a spouse passes away or some sort of a life change, and they try and find a way to get information on it. One of the key things that you talk about is the website. We're showing a picture of it here and how valuable it is.
It definitely is, because there is so much information that one has to kind of try to assimilate, figure out, even before they reach Social Security or that representative, whoever that is. So often what happens is a person will come in to Social Security and they haven't looked at all at any information. They know they may potentially be eligible. Like you said, maybe there was a death, and so they know there's this survivor benefit. But then what ends up happening, unfortunately, is they don't look at it, so they come in and they're asking very basic questions, or even retirement. You know, how old do I have to be? What can I do? And if they went to our website, oh my gosh, they would save so much time and just hassle, because it can take a couple hours to get in front of one of our representatives. I mean, anyone who goes to the office will see that. It's just, we're busy. 300 to 500 people a day in each of our offices.
Right, yeah, so it's a good idea. Really, it doesn't any stage in life. Yeah, we don't have 20-year-olds living here, but even if you're 20, you can log on, and if you're starting to work and all, and you'll start to see what your benefits, how they accumulate. And you've often talked about it's a fantastic resource. How do you set this up? How do you set your account
so the
up?
best way is, in the slide that you're seeing there with the graphic, the My Social Security account, is really where we say for people to start with, which is to receive and be able to view their own information.
Right.
So when they go onto the website, they create a My Social Security account. It used to be the statements that we used to send out, the green printed, and we all remember those. But now it's the electronic form. And so instead of those statements that we send out, it's look at your information. How much am I going to receive? Look at the earnings record. You know, is everything captured there correctly? Because that's going to affect how much their benefits are. And so we want to make sure we're paying correctly.
Right. Now, also, people can go to frequently asked questions. They can, there's just so much information on the website.
Yes.
They can there look, depending on their age, they may say, when am I going to be able to get my full benefits? And at what point do I need to sign up for this? And all the ins and outs are right there.
Yes, if they go and take a look, especially like you said, one of the things I think is the best is the FAQs. Because a lot of the questions that they have are right there. They don't necessarily have to try to figure out and maybe scroll, although they can go in and just kind of poke around in different areas. But the FAQs are going to, you know, everyone's asking a lot of the same questions. So if they start there, their knowledge is going to be ramped up. And so, you know, get ahead on that curve is what, you know, usually I try to tell them, use the website to get ahead of the curve there.
Right. Let's talk about somebody who is approaching their Social Security date. And yes, I know you can get it early. You can get it when you're 62 and a few months old. But the traditional time is going to be somebody 66, 67, depending, as you've talked about, what year they were born.
Correct.
So let's just say hypothetically, they're approaching that date. Maybe they're about 6 months away from that date, and they know that's when they want to take it, instead of waiting till they're a little bit older. What do they need to do to kind of prepare?
Yeah, there's a few things that they can do if they're preparing for, you know, that retirement. They know this is the date I want to take it. One, they should be going onto the website, taking a look at their record, and make sure that that amount that they've estimated using the calculators is what they're going to receive, and that's what they still want to move forward with. By also looking there, they're going to make sure that everything is kind of set up for them so we know who they are, the information's correct, because if they're able to get on their statement, then we know that they've already kind of passed and we're connecting with their names, their other information. So as they move forward, then 3 months ahead of time is the maximum that someone can go online or contact us to set up their benefits. And so you can't apply prior to 3 months. So that's the maximum, 3 months ahead of time. But if they're going 2-3 months ahead, they'll be fine. They'll be fine with that.
Okay. And I know you've talked about this in the past, that you can still, there's no penalty, unlike if you take it early at age 62. There's a certain amount that you're allotted that if you're still in the workforce that you can make without being penalized.
Correct.
17,000?
This year it's 18,240.
But once you reach that full retirement age, it
no
doesn't matter.
limit, no limit. From that month, what we call attaining your full retirement age, whether, again, that's 66, which is this year, and then next year we add 2 months going forward to anyone born 1960 or later would then be at 67. And so it's as long as you're prior to, yes, there's a limit, an annual limit, and it's very low. It's meant to be only very part-time.
Right.
But if you are at your full retirement age, you could work, earn whatever you're earning, and take your Social Security because there is no limit.
Okay, and of course, for those people who may want to, you can wait and hold off on getting your benefits till you're 70, 70 and a half?
70 is the maximum.
Okay, all right.
So once you hit age 70, you would have accrued what we call delayed retirement credit. So delayed retirement credit is 8% for every 12 months or for every year. So as the person delays it, let's say from 66 to 70, 4 years, they would get 32%. Or if their full retirement age is 67, it would be the 24%, 3 years at 8%.
Right, and there's no right or wrong. It's whatever fits.
No, one of the questions I get is, what is the best age for, to retire at? When should someone take Social Security? And I'm like, oh my gosh, never listen to someone that gives just an age, because they have no clue how Social Security works. Because really, Social Security is about you as an individual looking at all your factors, your priorities, what you want to do, and saying, this will work for me. But it may be different for you and your spouse.
Yeah.
Because you got to factor in ages, kind of what your maybe health, looking at how long do I really expect to be here, my longevity, my family history, health. So there's so many factors that there is no one right age.
That's
it's
right.
A right age for one.
Yeah. And as we have said, we're just talking about the frequently asked questions, all the information. And while we don't have time for that in this segment here, Jeffrey does the monthly come in and do the show for the month that we show on Fridays at 10, and then on Saturdays we repeat that. That's where you're going to really get this information about spousal benefits and all this kind of stuff, plus online.
And I try to cover, those different gamuts of maybe what people are looking at, considering, and try to mix it up each time so that they can hear something a little different. As well as you see there, I always offer people. I'm your liaison. As public affairs specialist for Social Security, I know how hard it is because I'm at the office. I see how many people are there. I know it's hard to get in contact with them. But you can always shoot me an email. You can always send me a letter and say, I'm looking at this scenario, or, what about this? Can you cover this in one of your segments? I would love to do that to make sure, because I want to tailor it to what you all need. And so that's, I would say, please let me know what I can cover, so I'm doing kind of the justice out here.
Yeah, very good. One more quick thing. Sure. You always like to mention the fact that all those scams that are out there, the number one is people call you. I get that call all the time. And, if I don't answer calls that I don't know what the number is. If it's important, if it's a family member, they're going to call me back with a message.
No, I fully agree.
That is not something Social Security is going to be doing.
And we put out this information just recently, and you can even catch it on our frequently asked questions, our blogs, different places, some of that information. If you go to our website, there's a big red bar that talks about fraud and scams. They click on there, they'll get information. But it's the biggest thing to know is the way that we communicate with our people, and that is U.S. mail. We are going to send a letter. If you have not received a letter to say, we're changing something, we need you to call us, whatever that may be, and you get a phone call saying, hey, this is going on, and those two are not connecting, it's not us.
Yeah.
It's not us. We don't call you unless we've sent a letter to say, hey, we're going to be calling you, or we need you to call us. Otherwise, the same thing like you. Either don't answer it if you don't recognize, if you have the caller ID, or two, as soon as they start saying something about Social Security, just hang up.
Yeah.
Don't entertain them. Please don't. They're very smooth talkers. They know what they're doing. That's what they do.
Yeah.
So please don't. Just hang up and then report it. Go to our website, click on that red bar, get to OIG so that can be sent over and report so we can figure out where this is happening and what they're trying to do.
All right. Jeffrey, good to see you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Great being with you.
Yeah, you take care. And again, the website is ssa.gov. And if you haven't done so, set up your My Social Security account there. We'll be right back.
Today, we are marking the beginning of a new era as City of Hope opens its first location right here in Newport Beach.
We have 500 scientists and doctors who have dedicated their lives to beating cancer. So they use that intellectual capital to try to make sure every patient gets the best care possible that's known to science.
Tomorrow, because of the cancellation of the board meeting, we're going to bring you some movies to see. Let's talk about the library first, and then I'll tell you about that. Eileen Ordway, who of course is one of the main people over there at the Village Library, sent this to me on Friday, and she wanted to let people know that, as you can see by the photo there, they have a locker out there for basically an honorary library system. They're going to be putting in some paperbacks, DVDs and puzzles that people can come and take home and then return when they are done with them for the next person to enjoy. They have also set up a table where people can sit and read newspapers every day. Now, I do want to remind you this was given to me on Friday, so as far as people sitting there reading newspapers, that's probably not in the still there for now. However, as far as I know, that locker that you see there that has DVDs, paperbacks, and puzzles in them is there. So that's nice of her to do. I know she cares a lot about the Village Library, and this is one way that you can go over there and get something to pass the time away. All right, now we're going to be showing you movies tomorrow. As I said, and when I was talking to CEO Jeff Parker, the meetings are canceled. So therefore, we have Won't You Be My Neighbor? And this is the documentary about Mr. Rogers, not the movie with Tom Hanks, which we're going to be showing you, I believe, in April. So there you go. But 9:30 tomorrow on Tuesday, that documentary is a little over 2.5 hours. It was excellent. If you had not seen it, it is really well done, and you'll find that really enjoyable. I know a lot of you folks, certainly your kids or grandkids grew up watching Mr. Rogers. As I remember, I was a little too old for it, but my sister enjoying that. So that will be tomorrow at 9:30. And then we're also going to be bringing you A Dog's Journey at 6 o'clock tomorrow. Another good movie, and just a great family film to watch. Take your mind off things and check that out. Now, of course, today we're going to be bringing you our normal movie, which this is a fun one. Kind of reminds me of the board game Clue, and it's called Knives Out, and it's about a renowned novelist, Harlan Thornby. He is played by Daniel Craig, dies just after his 85th birthday. An inquisitive and debonair detective, Benoit Blanc, that is Daniel Craig, arrives to the estate to investigate. From Harlan's dysfunctional families to his devoted staff, Blanc sits through a web of red herrings and self-serving lies to uncover the truth about the untimely demise. What a cast in this. You've got, of course, Daniel Craig You have Chris Evans, who plays, who's in the plays Captain Marvel in all those movies. Ana de Armas, Jamie Lynn Curtis, Toni Collette, who you just saw there, Don Johnson, Christopher Plummer. I mean, this is really a huge cast and just a fun movie, as simple as that. It runs 2 hours and 11 minutes, came out last year, and it's crime, mystery, drama, comedy, all rolled into one. So that will be today at 2 and at 6 p.m. Then our Friday movie is a documentary, and this is and it's about the person Toni Morrison, The Pieces That I Am. I never even knew who this person was or I've ever heard the name, but it's an artful and intimate meditation on the legendary storyteller and examines her life, her works, her powerful themes as she confronted throughout her literary career. And Oprah Winfrey is in this, along with several other people that comment on Toni Morrison. And I'm interested in this because I've never heard of this person, so maybe you have. Obviously, she was, was an author and all, so check that out. That will be Friday, the normal times at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Now, as we said, at this point in time, there are no scheduled meetings by the boards. They may be doing something behind the scenes, but no open meetings, so keep that in mind. The third board meeting tomorrow is canceled, so that's why we're bringing you some movies that you can watch. And a few other things you can do. You can go on the YouTube channel that we have, and you can watch all kinds of different segments on there. One of them, of course, you can catch up on the Old Pros Tales from the Woods. If you want, that's on YouTube, and they have their own YouTube channel to watch that if you want, so you can check that out. Or their wonderful podcast called the Old Pros Radio Hour that you can download, and whatever podcast system that you use, whether it's Spotify or iTunes or whatever it is, you can find it on there and listen to that. Go to the ocoldpros.org to find out more information about that. Now, of course, at this time, all activities are canceled, so there's some future ones that I have. I'm not going to tell you about those now because we don't know what's going to happen as we get to a month from now. So I'm not going to mention those, and if things change, I will let you know. We'll tell you about the weather, though. We've got many days of rain coming your way. What we're looking at today and tomorrow is this is a heavy system that is due to come in. Probably by, we can get a little sprinkles throughout the day. Late afternoon to early evening, we'll start to see heavier rain coming in. Tomorrow is supposed to be the big part of it. 1 to 2 inches are expected around Southern California. So we could get an inch here, we could get more. We'll see how that plays out. Then it should spill over into Wednesday morning. Then we'll start to see a little sunshine out as it stands right now. And Thursday and Friday, we've got kind of like what we saw yesterday and Saturday, maybe some light rain with some sunshine in there. And we'll see what happens on the weekend. Right now, we're looking at a chance of a little bit more rain. I hope not, because I got to at least get out and do some garden work, do some spring garden work. All right, we will see you tomorrow, and we'll see who ends up coming on. Good chance we'll have CEO Jeff Parker coming back on to give us updates as needed. And you take care of yourself.